Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Task Solutions, where we podcast, where we're going to talk about some crazy things happening in the world of not just technology, but in the world of AI. I mean, who knew, right? More AI, but it's more than that, guys. We promise.
Telling you that meme every time we talk about AI reminds me of the meme with the trombone, where the guy's like AI
Yes,
and yeah.
yes.
Anyways, yeah,
Well,
it's gonna be interesting.
I think today it's less about like AI and face and more like what are the repercussions of some of the things that we're dealing with, especially for small to medium sized businesses. Uh, that's why we titled this wonderful masterpiece, The Credibility Crisis: AI, Trust Signals, and the Future of Digital Presence.
I think anytime you use the term crisis, it starts to panic people.
Well, I think people should be a little panicky about some things, specifically with their business, but maybe not so much that they can't think about a solution. And I think that's where we can help provide a little bit of that secret sauce. Because I want to basically say, I think it's fair to say that there's a major, massive shift right now for people, or there should be anyway, when it comes to integrating any kind of system, uh, basically that might help with their searchability and visibility or being discovered online. And I think that a lot of people are noticing that the word of mouth isn't enough for their small to medium business anymore. Uh, Specifically small businesses, like they're really struggling, especially in our local area. And I know our area tends to be around the Texas area. Specifically, we're in the Houston area and all the different service areas is around us. And I know that just within driving distance between you and I know that there's tons of businesses that, while they are what might be considered a thriving market, they're still struggling. So the question is why? Why is that the case? You know, and where do they turn to when word of mouth is no longer enough?
It's a scary time. It really is, and it's one of those things. I always use 2019 with COVID and the website as a precursor, or at least a understanding. In 2019, customers that had a brick and mortar location didn't have a website. Um, they focused on what's what I'm looking for, Joe. It's one of those days, right? Essentially, they were operating you know traditionally, where you go into the store, do the transaction, run the service, and we're good to go.
Sure.
And on top of that, there's still a lot of changes going on. So distraction.
No worries. No worries.
No, it's cool. It's like, what happened? Where did Joe go? Um, but anyway, so those that when COVID happened and everything got shut down, people no longer were able to do business as usual. And those that had the internet infrastructure in place, they had a website in place, they had the ability to be able to continue doing business, and they were able to grow and thrive and flourish during the pandemic.
Right.
Fast forward, so now you have ChatGPT, you have generative AI, you have artificial intelligence, you have agentic marketing that's now coming around, and we are seeing the same thing. Those that are pivoting and are utilizing these tools are going to be the ones that are gaining the most from the fruits of it, of the labor. So those that are not, they're not competing with people that are using it. So it's kind of like the you know you're on the freeway, and well, I hope you're on the freeway. But if you're on the freeway and you got a bicycle and you're going right against a Nissan GTR, you may see a little difference in speed.
Absolutely right. And I think that's the biggest concern right there is those signals like that, like the speed signal, the ability for people to be found online, uh the quickness of it. I think that right there is what we're experiencing. Like technology itself is all about, is like making things faster and more efficient and reliable. And I think that's where people are starting to turn their attention to, when you talk about, if they're using these tools, that is the answer a lot of people come up with. And so I think what is interesting about this is that I'll take what Forbes said sometime last year. I want to say towards the sorry, earlier this year, towards this last month, where they basically said that AI is now marketing's gatekeeper. And what's interesting about this is that down here they mention a few things. They mentioned that AI dominated the cultural moment when it came down to the Super Bowl. And they cite a few examples, of course, but the most important thing is the scale versus the trust problem. And I think what's great about that is there are millions of influencers, says Castro, but the hard part, and this person who's being interviewed, but the hard part is figuring out which 10 relationships are actually worth the time and cost to build meaningfully. So that right there tells you that even in a land where people think, oh, influencers have all this great effect on culture and all this other that, it's so inundated now that even large companies have to find trust signals with influencers. That these concepts are not they're not just for businesses. That's what I'm getting at, and I think we all see that. But I think this is just another example of why that's important because yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you're absolutely right. And so the term that people use online or in this profession is really UGC, user generated content.
Right.
And I'd like to talk about McDonald's because McDonald's has actually been in the news recently, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Joe. But they came out with a big arch, and no one really, not really care about the product, but I'm more interested in what happened with the CEO. So the CEO
Right.
decides that during lunchtime that he was going to go ahead and take a bite and eat it, and so people started making fun of user generated content because they found it cringe to have the CEO doing what he was doing. And of course, what I found really amazing was they took the cringe and people making fun of what he did and they
Yeah,
made it actually into a thumbnail, a meme. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think that's fantastic. Like that just exemplifies the point.
that happened this week. So that's, I mean,
Yeah.
it's happening with major companies, and if you're able to catch along and follow that, you'll see that the article and what's going on, it's not just theory, but it's actually in practice, and we're seeing that with gigantic companies doing this.
Right.
So
And I think that what people need to realize is that just like you said, this can make and break big companies too. The trust, the credibility. Obviously, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. This is a phrase that we know very well, right? But
correct.
usually people associate that with real space, like in real life. It's physicals, the big birds that they fall, it's hard. Right, yes. But
Right.
it goes for these concepts too. And here's the thing. Search engines, I remember, and you probably remember, they used to show like 10 blue links. That
Right.
was it. When it first started off, links. That was it. It was nothing else.
Well, half the page
Google,
was the logo. If you remember, half the page was a logo. First of all,
right, right. But then you had Yahoo, you
web
had
crawler.
right, and that's it. You had some
Right.
links, and now here's where we are. These tools summarize the internet for you at the top of the page, and they recommend a business or two.
Right.
Like what? You're literally you the illusion of choice at that point, right? In some capacities, but that's why you want to try and be. You want to try and be in that suggestion. And if you're not, well, then your credibility isn't strong enough.
So
You haven't done the work.
I want to talk about that real quick, Joe. If you wouldn't mind sharing your browser again, just go to Google and just type in McDonald's. Don't type in anything else. Just type in McDonald's.
Okay.
Just type McDonald's. Okay, great. You see the same thing I see.
Mhm.
Now, in 2026, you type in the word McDonald's. On the right hand side, it's giving you the history of the company. On the
Yes.
left hand side in the middle, it's giving you the locations that are geofenced, geotagged near you. Okay. On the bottom right, you have all of its social media. Below that, you have the other competitors that are available in the same area market. And of course, then you have your links. As a, you know, as this is what I'm talking about in terms of the user experience. Do you know how much data this is? How much information this is with just typing in McDonald's?
That's a ton.
0 click.
Yeah.
All you had to do was type in McDonald's, and this
Right.
is what people are getting. And where I'm trying to get at with this is when you start focusing on the way the user experience is shifting and changing with search engines, that's what you have to do as a business owner to understand that this is where what Joe and I are doing, or what other marketing agencies, hopefully they're helping you with, is making you understand how the user experience needs to play for your customers. So I'm using McDonald's as a great example because, of course, their marketing budget is probably out the yazoo. We know that. But once again, take a look at that. This is how people are being able. We're becoming
Yeah.
accustomed to this, Joe. It's no longer
Well,
if
yeah.
right now you typed in McDonald's and there were 4 links, you and I would think that there was something wrong with our browser. There was something wrong with
Well,
our user
of
experience.
course. But here's what I want to point to. Like if I just put in the word burger
Yeah,
and I
right.
just do that, what happens?
Oh
Would you look
wow.
at that?
Oh wow. That's actually very good. So you went from a specific brand to just a topic.
And
That's
it's just like even Burger King
right,
is showing up below the
right,
map pack.
right,
The
right,
that's the it's crazy,
right,
isn't it?
right,
And that's what and this is where you want to be. And I think that's where this is why we talk so much about why this is so important for small to medium businesses, because
right.
if you can get these, and I know that this one right here particularly is not a chain. This one is a franchise, and this one is not a chain either. You have two local businesses that are beating Burger King and McDonald's on the map pack.
Once
That's
again,
crazy.
everything is about geotagging, and I would be very interested in knowing more about how the algorithm is working on that,
Yeah.
because the one thing that we always discuss is, people say, well, can you guarantee? What do you want me to guarantee? There's no guarantee. Whenever the algorithm is changing, what, 300-400 times a year, I God knows how many core updates they do.
Well, and the question is
Yeah,
what are we guaranteeing, right? I mean, that's it. Like if we're guaranteeing that you're going to get more traffic, absolutely, you will,
correct.
right?
But I think what's important is for us to share with that. What I want you to get out of this is the term topical dominance, and that's a big piece where, if you notice that whenever you type in the term burger, it was everything that correlates with the term burger, all the
Mhm.
topics that go with it. So, what is a burger? Where are your local companies with burgers? Who are the major heavy hitters of burgers? And then links to recipes and so forth. So the bottom line is the end user experience is really shifted. It's really shifted in 2026. So, and they're trying to make it where when you're on your phone, it's much easier to actually get the information very fast without having to click and go ten pages in.
Oh, absolutely,
So,
and then it should be, but at the same time, you're also missing. There's some sacrifices that are being made, such as what content is may or may not. It may be relevant to what you're looking for, but it is definitely more curated content at that point, because the AI is filtering out some things, and that's the challenge we're trying to show people is a problem. Look, another major issue, actually, if we can switch it up a little bit,
yeah.
is really fake reviews and AI generated reputation manipulation. So I want to point out something that the New York Post, I believe, said, and says that there's been an issue not too long ago where fake reviews of real estate agents are taking over Zillow. Yeah, this was a thing. I remember this actually happening in June or July, where they were talking about this sort of stuff. Where uh, one, if I'm not mistaken, Zillow themselves actually were doing something weird. They were trying to like compete with themselves. Like they bought a bunch of real estate and they were selling it at super cheap prices for the market, right? They were competing with themselves. It was interesting. But what I wanted to point out is that nearly 1 in 4 real estate agent reviews in 2025 were likely written by artificial intelligence, according to originality.ai, which, as you know, is an artificial intelligence dedicated to sussing out other artificial intelligent content. So it's interesting because what that means then, and we've heard about this stuff before in the past, where people have bought reviews so they can become more quote unquote credible online. But I think you know what I'm going to say. The problem becomes, well, I'll put it this way. If you looking at this from a 2D chess maneuver or checkers maneuver, then yes, it makes perfect sense. Buy your credibility online and you can walk away happy, right? Here's the problem with that. The algorithms don't see it that way because they're looking at you with these new reviews that come from these accounts that are also reviewing all these other different things that aren't real people probably, and knows they're not real people by the way they're acting. See, you can't assume that the algorithm thinks like a person. It thinks like a machine and can check things tirelessly.
Right. I mean, we'll just go one step further. So let's say that you develop a persona, an online persona, and I'm going to be Susie. Okay. So if
Yeah.
I develop Susie, so you can develop an email address with Susie101@gmail.com. You can you can generate an image, you can do the whole 9 yards. Well, the problem that it's going to start also checking against is how long ago was the actual account created, which is a thing that a lot of people are not thinking about. Then it also looks to see how fresh the actual email is as well, because you can check that as well. It's also looking at your connections. Who are your connections, your relationships, how, all those things are playing into it. It's so yeah, you got to be very careful with this stuff. Speaking of credibility, Joe, I want to share with you what happened yesterday with my son, which deals directly with Nextdoor. And I think you're going to find this fascinating. So my son likes to go around the neighborhood doing pressure washing, trash cans, and so forth. And him and his friend, they go door to door knocking. He decided organically that his friend was going to post on Nextdoor. So they made an account. Now, remember, I've not shared anything about this. This is what teenagers are doing. Took a before and after picture of the trash can and wrote in third person, meaning that they were acting as a customer that bought from them. Wrote, 2 boys came to my house and they did a magnificent job on cleaning my trash can. Here are the before and after picture. If you guys are in need of this, give these 2 gentlemen a call. Okay. 1,000 people saw it. Now, how did I come to find out about this, Joe? Because my son came down the stairs hysterical and like happy and excited because someone had called the phone number and scheduled an appointment for them to do their trash can. Okay. There's the reason why I'm getting to this. So they booked the call, and what they did though is they manipulated Nextdoor by acting like a customer. And then the other kid messaged on the same post, wrote, I just had my house done too. They were great. Had another person validate the fake post.
Right.
Okay. Which allowed other people to call. So if a 13-year-olds can do this today. And by the way, if we talk about if it was a legitimate business and if they were doing this, that is going to ruin credibility. If people find out that you are manipulating posts, if you're manipulating services, if you're manipulating things like that, that ruins your credibility. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Okay?
Absolutely.
But I just wanted to share that because that's a very, very basic thing that two 13-year-olds were able to come up with. So if two 13-year-olds are doing that, you can only imagine the sophistication of what's going on in the world today, utilizing tools, applications, and so forth. So I just wanted to share that as a interesting piece to go with this.
Absolutely. Well, and I want to not only bring it up, as like a point to talk about, obviously, and as a point of concern. Anybody out there putting their hands together like Mr. Burns and going, yes, maybe I should partake in this as well. Well, let's stop all of that by simply pointing out that the FTC is now warning that they're going to start bringing fines to any companies that actually are participating in such things. Not cheap either. We're
Right.
looking at $53,000 per violation. So I want you to imagine if you bought 100 reviews from some sketchy person online, that's $53,000 times 100. Okay. So let's not do that. How about that? And focus more, of course, on organic growth. And here's why, guys. If credibility becomes fake, the entire internet stops working. That's it. We have to have some semblance of credibility and legitimacy that is honest.
Full stop. No, you're absolutely right. And just to let the viewers know that we have been in meetings where we've seen people come up and say, "Hey, I don't need you guys. I have a company right now that's generating me reviews, and I know how to game the system." That's exactly what the gentleman told me, and I just looked at him. I said, "Good luck. We'll see you shortly. You're gonna have major issues with your reputation. So strongly recommend not doing it." And it was an actual company and
Oh, of
big chain.
course.
It was a big chain.
Well, and then if I'm not mistaken, that same company did fall into some legal trouble and was not specific about what. So I don't know if it was because of that, but I will definitely say that if you're doing one thing, you're probably doing another. So definitely, guys, keep it above board if you can. And again, there's enough noise out there without having to be fake. And I think that's where our next segment can come into, is why authentic digital presence matters more than ever. Because authentic signals are becoming the most valuable signals, period. Look, customers look for some basic things. They look for consistent activity. They look for real customer responses, of course. They can kind of tell when it's fake, not always, most of the time. And of course, they're looking for a clear message. I think those things are good. Is there anything you wanted to add to that list, Sean?
No, it's pretty good. The only one that I would say is when it comes down to genuine reviews is inside the review that you leave, what the content is extremely important as well. For example, if you write 5-star, great company, that doesn't really help. But let's say that you were getting your oil changed, okay? And you write, "These guys today," specific name of the person, "did a wonderful job on my car. They gave me great advice on the difference between this type of oil versus synthetic oil. And they told me to pick this tier because it did X, Y, Z." You're probably thinking, well, I don't have time for that. Well, let me put it this way. If you were the one that was interested in going to that auto mechanic company and you're looking at the reviews, and when you're able to see such a detailed review, it would change your mind on how you want to operate with them. So that's why it's so important for us to leave. Going back to what you said, Joe, you know, if we have the most authentic and we respect the internet, we respect the tools and what we're supposed to be doing, we all benefit from that. And if we don't do that, it does break and it becomes a
Yeah.
complete useless tool. So just want to reiterate that again.
Oh no, that's fantastic. And that leads great into like this ideology I think we have over here at Tap Solutions, where I want to mention, look, you're not just convincing people, right, to come over and you know use your business, use services, products, whatever you guys are working with. Um, you're also having to convince AI systems,
Right.
the new algorithmic changes, blah blah blah. Just think Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, you name it. Okay, uh, it's an important shift, but I want to really put it this way, and I'm definitely doing this for a soundbite. Digital presence, it used to be about marketing. You had your Coca-Colas, you had your Walmarts, you had these big brands that had entire PR departments. That's why when you look up digital presence, you're probably going to find more about PR than you will about online digital presence. But what I will tell you is that there's a big shift with that now, because now it is not about marketing exclusively. It is verification. That's what digital presence is being used as now.
Right.
Verification by clients, customers, whatever, for you to see if they're going to use you. Clip that.
Yeah, exactly right. I'll go one step further, and I'm going to go back to the next door case because a lot of customers we work with, a lot of clients that we have are also in the service industry, and I'm going to use the handyman as an example. How do you differentiate between two handyman? Well, everybody can have a truck. Everybody can have a magnet on the side that you get from Vistaprint that says handyman services, right?
Yeah.
And cash basis. So you go up, so knock on the door, you solicit and say, hey, I'm here. I can take care of your fence. Two companies can do that. Now, more than likely, they're going to ask for at least 50% up front, and they're going to ask for a big chunk of change, a couple thousand to do the fence. What happens a lot of times? We see time and time again on Nextdoor that someone paid half of the money up front. They either A, didn't do the job, or B, they left it incomplete, and the customer has been shafted and they're upset. Now, and then what do? They automatically post a picture of the person, who they are, and tell them not to do business with them. If a legitimate handyman has a website, not just a website, reviews, reputation, and has material and content that shows them working with other clients. So, for example, if you're doing fencing, knock on the door, you do a good job, take some pictures, take some videos, have the person say, yes, X, Y, and Z fencing company did a great job for me, and I strongly recommend that. That's your credibility. You need to do that. So, people that think, well, if I just slap together a business card, have a little landing page, it has a little picture of a home, and it says, I do fencing, is going to get you to in 2026. Good luck, because they're going
Yeah.
to crawl up your, you know what, to figure out who you are, where you do business, and if you are a legitimate company. Because
Yeah.
consumers are very well educated in 2026. It's not like the old days, Joe. Oh, you can do my fence? Go for it. No problem. Here's cash.
Well, I definitely think there was a generational
Sure.
difference between them and even the ones before them and
I
us.
agree with you.
But
Right. Right.
but I will definitely say that you're right.
Right.
It part of that, by the way, was born out of like, well, I just don't. You're nearby, so I'm just going to trust you because I'm gonna have to,
Yeah.
right? Well, now
You knocked on my
you
door.
don't,
I can see you.
right?
You knocked on my door. I can see you.
Right.
Right. Right.
But I think with the ease in which we can communicate now, that has drastically changed how that works
Right.
for us and moving forward, right? And I think that's
Right.
where that is going to you're right. It used to be this capacity thing. Now it's this new way of like, oh man, I got to verify everything about this person because now since everybody's so like people like to say the world is smaller. I would agree with that in terms of like communication. It feels smaller. What it also means is that you get to hear a lot of people who are trying to scam you as well. And I think that is what people are so afraid of. They don't want to be scammed. They want people who will actually do a good job, instead of just hoping that they will. And that really is, I think, where things are going to start getting a little more interesting for people. Because here's the thing, guys. We talked a lot about trust and building about all these different trust signals and helping things work. What happens when you do have a lot of trust signals, right? When you've built the work, you've got the social media running, your digital presence is actually kicking in pretty or doing work for you and verifying yourself for your clients. What happens? Well, you got to be able to actually one deal with all those people who are trying to contact you. Can they contact you? I mean, sure, you've put out stuff on social media, but are they actually like, are those things being monitored? Can you actually pay attention to this? Are you working so much on the work itself and not paying attention to new clientele like you should? Because those are really good questions. And so this is where we move into a little more of the idea of what agentic marketing is all about. Don't let the word agentic marketing fool you into thinking that it is about making pay-per-click so optimized it's amazing. No, that's not what this is about. It's about the key word, I believe, is automation and monitoring and then like triaging a whole lot.
My favorite one, Joe, is, oh, I can just throw some money at something that's going to make all my dreams come true.
Right.
Yeah, that's not that's not what this stuff does. There's more to it.
It's not a it's not a platform sort of thing where you just pay a certain dollar amount and it just magically does things. I unfortunately I think a lot of people view that as the case, and part of that's honestly, Sean, it's the fault of pay-per-click marketing. Where they could do that, they could just throw money at the problem, and they had an agency come in and make ads and then submit it and then force it in people's eyeballs, basically pay money to force the ad in people's eyeballs, and hopefully they ingest it, which is funny because this is how inefficient that was, right? 4% was the conversion rate, and that's considered a healthy conversion rate.
Right.
I don't think people realize how freaking inefficient pay-per-click marketing really is. You're literally throwing thousands of dollars for a 4% hope that you're gonna get clients. I'm not saying it doesn't work, because it does. Okay, it does work. But just when you say it out loud and in that perspective, it truly sounds ridiculous. You're literally spending tens of thousands of dollars for 4% of something. Like, who does that, right? So why not do something a little more reliable? I think that's what we're trying to get at. And fortunately, with agentic marketing, that is what can happen, because now you're going to be able to basically look. We're not trying to say that the strategy isn't a good one. Pay-per-click marketing is definitely a strategy. I don't think it's a good one personally, but I think that there are better ones. But it is a strategy. Your social media campaigns that you're running and growing your digital presence, I think that's a way better strategy, right? To grow. And so AI agentic marketing is not about replacing strategies. It's amplifying a good strategy. And I think that is where people are going to be happy. And look, you can amplify pay-per-click campaigns with agentic marketing. You can. But where is it going to go?
Right.
To 6%? Is that what we're going to do? Is that what you're going to accept? Or are you going to accept something that's harder to do, like growing your digital presence, growing your footprint on the online? That's harder to do in terms of organic growth. And maybe that's a better task for agentic marketing.
Well, and when we talk about marketing in general, I think one of the biggest concerns that I see is people want something for nothing. People don't want to do any investments. People don't want to spend money, but they want to complain when they're not seeing proof. They want to see when they don't see evidence. For those of you that own a business, the traditional small business should be allocating between 7 to 8% of their gross revenue on a annual basis for marketing. So if you don't have a budget put together and you're not doing that, you should start looking towards that. I don't care how much you can, even if it's 1%, something should be going towards that. So that includes your digital presence tools, that includes business cards, print media, anything that's able to get the word out, pins, whatever the case may be. Your koozies, and that one guy, he bought $100 of koozies and a long time ago. It was a rent a tender or something. I don't remember what his name was.
Yeah, I remember.
If he's out there in the world, I hope he's doing well, and I hope he's got like a whole bar and everything else. But anyways, bottom line is marketing material. Put a budget aside, allocate that, and start thinking in terms of growth. People look at this, say, I feel like I'm just burning money. And the truth is, you're not if you do it right. And if you're working with an agency that's going to put you in the right direction. All these things that we're talking about are best practices, there's tools, but there is a playbook that goes along with this. And what I can share with you that Joe and I have been creating is we do have a learning management system that's going to have a lot of courses on there that Joe and I've designed. And just let you know, we have a background in higher education, so a lot of the courses that we've developed are going to help you with being able to move your business to the next level. So keep an eye out on that. We're going to be launching that sometime this month. I can give you an exact date, but we're hoping that in March it'll be launched, and then from there you'll be able to give us a call or talk to us, and we'll go from there. But anyways, where I'm getting at is we try to put you in the right headspace. We try to give you all the pain points and the challenges and what you should do based on where you're at. But at the end of the day, Joe, they have to make the decision. They have to be the ones that decide that they want to make a change and move this. Please stop paying people money and assume that everything is just going to work. You need to be in the game. You need to be in there. If you are the dentist, if you are the mechanic shop owner, if you are the doctor, if you are the attorney, and it's your practice, it's your business, it's your baby, you should be in these meetings, or at least have someone that is a good focal, that's competent, and it's going to make sure that you are given the right information as the decision maker to be able to move forward. But if you're just paying and assume it's just going to work out, don't. You need to know what's going on.
I can definitely say that, like, if you buy a sign, for instance, right, and you put it out in front of your building, and you can say, "Oh, there's a dentist here," for instance, right? Dentistry here, big sign. In fact, it's ironic, actually, just going down the road near where I live. There's 2 dentist offices. One doesn't have a sign out except for the front of the building, right? The other one has seen fit to, all those little like art signs that people put out for like trying to say, "Oh, there's a car wash over here," or to temporary signage that you stick on the ground, right? They had that all up front, like saying there's a dentist office over here. What's fascinating about that to me is that they thought that what was the issue wasn't the established dentist office that's been there for over a decade. or more, maybe 20 some years. To compete with them, and they're only a block away, by the way.
Right.
To compete with them, that was the issue. That it wasn't the fact that they were there for longer. It was the fact that, people just don't know that we're here, and they were correct. They are. The problem is that they're competing with the verified, renowned dentist office that serviced the area for 20 years. And your answer isn't to go online and show how you differ from them or how you're knowledgeable to prove that it's worth coming and talking to you. Your solution is, I'm going to put a sign out, and people who drive by are going to go, oh, there's a dentist office over here. Let me just pull over. Probably not the best move. Probably because dentistry isn't a want. Well, it kind of is a want, but it's not a piece of candy. Like it's not a dessert shop. It's not a there's fresh jerky over here, or watermelon. I'm saying, like this. It's not a quick, I'm letting you know something that you want is over here, which may have a knee-jerk response to go do that thing, because that's what those signs are for, Sean. They're for making people go, oh, cool, and then immediately doing something about it. So to me, that's a core disconnect on what tools are available to people and what strategies they need to implement in order to make their business successful. Because if you just take 10 seconds to think about why a dentist office, or what a dentist office can do to make it easier on themselves or to become more trustworthy, is, what is their service even about? Well, when somebody chips a tooth, they go to the dentist office. When they go in for a regular checkup, they go to the dentist office.
Right.
It is not I'm bored this weekend, I'm going to the dentist office. That's not how that works. And so if they just simply think about that, then the answers start writing themselves. Okay, well, maybe I just need to make sure that when people do have that moment where they chip a tooth, I'm going to go to those guys because I see them everywhere.
Well, it goes based on that whole thing we talked about, top of mind. It's being top of mind. And this, these are not difficult concepts. Think about how you operate. Why do you buy certain things? Why do you do certain things? It doesn't have to be too complicated. A lot of people say, well, I don't understand why I can't get people coming to my door. Well, I get traffic, but okay, well, think about what you're doing. How are you reaching out to people? That
to say.
Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just going to say, all that to say, we have great news for everybody. Don't worry, all this stuff that we're talking about, if it feels like it's you, we have an answer for you. Okay. What is the one thing that we always say when it comes down to small businesses and any SMB in general, is that you guys are the underdog. You guys have been dealing with a lot of crap from big business coming into your spaces, bigger budgets. If government doesn't always help too much either. They like to throw curveballs at you. Heck, very often it's not just the curveballs of present circumstances, but really barriers to entry, regulation, yada, yada, yada. Could go on, right? But that's not what I'm about to talk about. What I'm about to talk about are some things that you can do to bite back. And if anything has been made clear over the past few years when it comes to AI, check this out. According to a survey, adoption of AI tools among small businesses jumped from 39% in 2024 to 55% in 2025, a 41% surge in just 1 year.
Well, you keep laying off everybody. I'm sorry. It's different. It's a different story.
So but what's interesting is I love this next sentence. If you run a small enterprise, that number should make you sit up and ask, are you ready to ride the wave or risk being left behind? So if this sounds familiar because you know us and we've talked to you directly, sit up and listen and ask yourself that question because it's definitely the case. Main bullet points here to bring up are speed and accessibility, being able to have AI-powered chatbots, automated analytics, generative AI tools, blah, 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 blah. Rise of GEO. Basically, guys, we're GEO specialists in case you didn't know. All right, in case any of this wasn't clear, we are GEO specialists. And then some. And obviously, broader use study cases. Obviously, the biggest takeaway from this that we want to point out to you guys is small businesses now have access to capabilities that were once reserved for enterprise companies, big, huge, ginormous companies with massive budgets. And it really is amazing because these tools, people spent millions on these things just 5-6 years ago. Okay.
Yep.
But here's the problem. You have to know how to use the tools. Just because you have it doesn't mean it's what we talked earlier. You can't just throw money in it and it solves everything. You have to know how to implement. Look, you got a circle saw, you're going to cut some boards, right? That's what you're going to do. But if you don't know how to cut boards properly, you're going to have a bad time. Right? It's going to cut. Trust me, it'll cut. But will it cut the way you want it to? Right there is the problem.
So where do we go from here? Give us a call.
That's it. Right there. And guys, I've been sharing all these articles in, of course, the all the different chat areas that allow such things from StreamYards. The point is, guys, we're not here to. We wanted today to really be a good opportunity for people to understand that if you have a tiny team, even if it's just yourself, believe it or not, you are the one who will benefit the most from what we're talking about. It's not, if you're listening to this and you made it this far, one, I want to thank you. Two, I definitely want you to know that if you're looking at this and going, it's just not me, I can't do it. But you can. It was built for you. That is the most important takeaway, because the efficiency advantage doesn't benefit the massive company that has 50 employees because they've already tasked those employees to do the thing that the AI is going to help you do without having to have 50 employees. You know, we're not replacing people, not that. It's just enabling you to punch high instead of at your belt level. I don't know what to say.
Well, I think you said it all. I mean, you captured a great moment, and I those that are listening, great. Those that will listen later on, even better. Those that don't hear it, well, sorry. But no, I mean, and we're going to keep pumping this out. We're going to keep bringing this up because it's very important for people to understand. For those of you, I think we do have a comment. Okay, no, okay. Any latest comments? But please reach out to us. Comment on the video below. Love to hear from you. Love to hear your comments and your takes. And what is it you're doing to embed these tools into your workflow and into your business? And what are some of the results you've gotten? Love to hear from y'all.
All right, guys, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you next time at the same wonderful bad time on the same bad channels, and hopefully have even more information for you guys to think about. And definitely call us, like mentioned, but also remember, guys, we're in this to help you understand what's happening, not just to sell you a model of some kind. We're all about making you aware of what's going on and why it's important for you to stay hip to it. All right, guys, y'all have a wonderful rest of the week. Catch you later.